Last week I played Star Attack Rebooted. It was a very solid hack with excellent levels and very reasonable difficulty progression. Star Attack 2, on the other hand, is a very different kind of game. Most Mario 64 hacks are going to have big open levels that let you wander around. These are levels that tend to encourage exploration and experimentation, much like the original game. This one, on the other hand, is designed to be much more one-way and much less dynamic. The design philosophy of Star Attack 2 seems to be to take Mario 64's fundamentals and translate them into something much more linear, kinda like Mario 3D World or something. This is not like most hacks where you can jump into a painting, grab a star, and then get booted out again. The pacing is much closer, actually, to something like the original Super Mario Bros., where you enter into a world with a very clear beginning, middle, and end, and once you reach the end, you go to the next part of the world, all up until you fight the final boss. There are even moments in this game where you can find secret warp zones that put you several levels ahead of where you are. It's far more point A to point B. There's a very clear forward direction. If you've been watching me for a while though, you probably know that I much prefer the more open-ended level design of things like 64, Sunshine, and Odyssey. That being said, this design philosophy has a lot of its own benefits. The stars in this game act much more as checkpoints as opposed to a collectible that allows you to get through doors. Because of its largely straightforward design, you're not going to have many moments in this game where you don't know where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to do. It's very straightforward and the pacing is very efficient. It's always clear what the next steps are, and the challenge tends to come from actually taking those steps. A lot of those steps can actually be surprisingly difficult. Star Attack 2 is a challenging game to a largely reasonable extent. I don't know if this is just a me problem, but these red-blue flip-switchy platforms really pissed me off. I don't know if I just got dumber since I played the first game, but I don't know. Otherwise, the game can definitely be classified as tough but fair. Each world is split into different subsections, all of which are thematically different from each other. No two levels look the same, they're all quite unique. One of my favorite levels is this mansion level with paintings of 3 hacker boys sitting in the foyer. Not since Da Vinci and Van Gogh have I seen paintings with such wonderful bilinear filtering. There's also Bowser City, also known as Los Bowseres or something like that. That's not a joke. That's actually in the game, I think. It's got this fountain shooting out the blood of all those who opposed his rule, or at least I think that's what happened. Yeah, this game gets pretty intense. It is worth noting that the Star Attack games do actually have a story. I didn't really talk about it in the Star Attack Rebooted video, but it does. And that's honestly quite impressive. I think this was probably a big thing in forming the level design, because it's harder to tell a straightforward narrative with more open level design that doesn't necessarily follow a preset order. The linearity allows for more environmental storytelling as the worlds become harsher and more downtrodden as you trek your way through. I wasn't following the story with extreme undivided attention, but from what I gather, there are 2 dimensions. There's the Mario dimension, which is powered by the stars, and the negative dimension, which is powered by the stars. At some point, some experiment allowed the people from Mario's world to cross over into the negative dimension, but naturally, that caused a bunch of fuck shit to happen, and now the world is in danger. Even though Bowser was yielding the power of the negative dimension, there still seems to be some evil, omnipotent force at work behind the scenes, as though the stars themselves are scheming against you. There's also some confusing time travel stuff that I either didn't fully understand or is being left intentionally vague and open to interpretation, or will be explained in the 3rd game. That's right, supposedly there's a Star Attack 3 that's gonna come out eventually. The story in this game is largely in the background, much like the original game. It doesn't require you to pay a lot of attention, but at the same time, I always appreciate it when the people who make these hacks pay attention to things like that anyway. I hate to bring up Doom again so soon. That's a lie, I love Doom. But John Carmack once said that story in a video game is like story in a porno. You expect it to be there, but it's really not that important. Today, with games like Last of Us and Red Dead, that would probably be considered controversial, and even John himself has qualified this statement a little more in recent years. But with games like Mario 64, which actually have good gameplay, I'd say this statement holds up far better. Mario 64 doesn't need a good story, and the original game didn't really have one to begin with, but because it's not necessary, that makes it all the more impressive that they actually took the time to make one for Ztar Attack, and it should certainly be applauded. Ztar Attack 2 is great, it's unique, it traded out the non-linearity for a more consistent and efficient experience, and it continues the Ztar Attack story. It answered some questions, but also left other questions up in the air. It's a game of mystery, and I hope to one day see what the third game has in store. I've been watching some of the development videos on the Gale95's channel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The third game appears to be larger in scope and level design and narrative, so it's definitely on my radar. But until that comes out, that's all the time I have right now. I have to get back to playing Bubsy 3D on my Nintendo 3DS. That was their true vision of Bubsy 3D. It wasn't initially possible on the PlayStation. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching my video.